Chapter 3, Getting Entangled. Yeah, what an interlude. Look.
いつだったか、気楽に生きていたいって言ったじゃない。ほんと、不器用よね。できないことをしたいだなんて。無理なんでしょ？気楽に過ごすなんて。本当に口ばっかり。気楽に生きるための努力で神経すり減らしてたんじゃ、たまったもんじゃないわ。それのどこが気楽な生き方よ。だけどそうしなければならない。誰に言われたわけでもなく、自分がそうしているのが楽だから。ええ。そうね。わかってる。ねえ。私たちって、もしかして似てるのかしら？それとも、全然似てないのかしら？
And again, I found myself in this room as I fell asleep. It was grand and luxurious, and had a color scheme that I could never get used to. As usual, the table was set for a tea party. Cakes and cream puffs, scones and multicolored jams, pies and tarts, fruits and biscuits. The black tea was fresh, it was always warm and smelled pleasant. Everything was delicious. Every time he comes into every time he's back in this room, there's always something there's always something new he has to describe. I don't know if it was well made, or if I had just imagined it that way, but the sofa was quite comfortable, and the carpet was thick and clearly high quality. But despite how luxurious the room was, or the fact that I was free to use it, this wasn't a dream I wanted to have. And the reason for that...
紅茶の味はいかがかしら?
The tea's great, just like last time. And the other time. Even though we've only seen this happen the second time, I'm sure it's happened more than once. Twice. I was sitting at the table, unhappily sipping away at my black tea. Across from me was Maya, sitting on her knees on the sofa, with her elbows on the table, peering at me. She didn't seem concerned at all with the sweets in front of her. The tea's good. And despite answering apathetically, Maya grinned, appearing satisfied. There was something reminiscent of a cat in how her eyes and mouth both curved like thin crescent moons. It was like that. It was a look that suited her well.
どうしたのかしら？そんなに怖い顔して私のことを見るなんて。昔はそんなことなかったのに。
Tori's just a dog person, alright? Never mind him. Hey, you don't have the right to say that. You don't have the right to say that you have no idea why. You know what you did to Saki the other night. When I said this, Maya let out an as though she had only just now remembered.
この間の夢のことね。あれを全部私がやったと思われるのは心外だわ。
Hurt? If not you, then who did it?
私はご招待しただけだもの。あの夢はサキちゃんが望んでいたこと。私はその望みを叶えてあげただけだもの。
Yeah, I can't believe Saki would dream of a plant version of Toru. Hey, Maya, even if Saki wished for that dream, it wasn't right for us to just watch it like that. In the time I took the blink, Maya, who had been on the other side of the table, suddenly appeared on my lap. She wasn't facing the side, instead she straddled my thighs and had her arms around my neck, as if she was about to hug me. Hey, Maya.
それだって、サキちゃんが望んでいたとしたら？知ってほしい。見てほしいって。
You're making things up. There's no way that would be true.
あら、勝手なんかじゃないわ。私にできるのは、いい夢でも悪い夢でも、その人の夢を見せることだけだもの。言ってみれば、夢に使われてるだけの案内人よ。
hearing that made me consider that maybe Maya wasn't the villain behind everything after all. Okay, she may not be the villain, but, you know, what analogy could I use to describe Maya's actions? Okay, I think I've got something. You know, Maya may not be the villain, but she is the one selling the weapons to the villains, right? I don't know if that's the right way to put it, but bad dreams and good dreams were both things contained in the mind of the dreamer. But if that's the case, in other words, you can show people bad dreams too, right? No one wanted to have bad dreams. But if Maya wasn't creating the dreams...
夢にはいいも悪いもないわ。全部夢だもの。
Except for the fact that there is a specific word that is used to describe bad dreams. It's called nightmares, right? Those are bad dreams. Maya smiled like a teacher praising a student who gave a good answer. So you're going to try and say that the reason Alice was also watching was because it was a nightmare? Even if I assumed that Saki wanted me to know, she didn't have any idea who Alice was. There was no reason Saki would want her to see.
そう。言ったでしょ？夢を見せることしかできないって。アリスがいたのだって夢が選んだことだもの。
Right.
どうしても無理なら、きっとアリスは何も知ることはできなかったんじゃないかしら。
I think you're just trying to deceive me. There was no basis to what Maya was saying in the first place. Maybe she was just saying things to try to confuse me.
そうかもしれないわね。そうだとしたら、どうするの？
Maya teasingly brought her face closer to mine. She was close enough that I could feel her breath. I turned away and Maya grinned.
あら、本当に久々の二人っきりなんだから、そんな風に避けられると悲しいわ。
You appear old enough that you shouldn't cling to me like that. Though she was supposed to be the same age as Saki, her build was noticeably smaller.
そうね。さきちゃんほどじゃないけど、私も少しくらいは女らしくなってるってことかしら。
With a smile, Maya shifted so that she was sitting facing the side. Her position had changed, but the distance between us was almost the same.
それとも、私とこうしてるのは嫌なのかしら。
Toru is still a bit apprehensive about doing this, but I can guarantee you there are a lot of people who would love to be in Toru's place. And one of those people gifted me the game. She already knew the answer, and even though I knew that, it didn't stop Maya from teasing me. I couldn't say that I didn't like it. And that made me a little disappointed in myself. Why couldn't I say I didn't like it? Had I still not let go of Maya? Obviously, that's why she's here. You haven't appeared since I started dreaming like this, so why did you appear now? I was finally able to spit out those words. I'd been thinking that ever since we reunited in this room, I'd wanted to say it, but couldn't work up the resolve. Does it have to do with Alice? I would start to say it, but then I would waver. Ever since I started lucid dreaming, I'd stopped dreaming about Maya.
私が誰の夢なのかくらい分かってるんでしょ？
That was obvious. It was me, without a doubt.
なのにわざわざ聞くの？それとも聞いて確認しておきたいのかしら？嬉しいの？悲しいの？傷つくの？それともやっぱり泣いちゃうのかしら？
Shut up. My words were It didn't sound tough at all, made Maya giggle.
よかったわ。私の知ってるままで。優しいだけで弱くて頼りないのに強がっちゃうの。本当に何も変わってなくて安心したわ。
I couldn't say anything back.
大丈夫。私はそんなところも大好きよ。
Maya looked genuinely happy as she said this. It made me a little worried about what kind of useless husk of a man she would have gotten stuck with if she were really alive. Or would she have stayed beside me, my useless self, my whole life? I'm not gonna... Okay, I mean, look, the thing is that Maya really does give fucking vampire vibes. And not vampire vibes, yandere vibes. The vampire vibes come from the Gothic Lolita aesthetic that she's using, right? And all of the fucking Victorian era style furniture around her. But if Maya was still around and Toru became this useless self that he claims to be in this point in time, right? That's what he's trying to get at. She would have gotten stuck with if she were really alive. Yeah. I'm hedging my bets on Maya being the reason why he would be that useless self. Right? You get what I mean?
強がって私とさよならしようとして、そしたら変な夢を見るようになっちゃうような、が、とっても好きよ。
She wasn't wrong. My lucid dreams weren't the result of me having stopped dreaming about Maya. I had lucid dreams because that was the only way I could stop myself from dreaming about Maya. I could stop myself from dreaming about Maya. Until that happened, far from being able to tell when a dream was a dream, I couldn't even tell when reality was reality. Who are you, really? I couldn't say those words. Whether she admitted it or denied it, I wouldn't know how to react to her response.
答えてあげてもいいけど、教えてあげないわ。
Fuck you. Maya giggled, seeming pleased with herself.
だって教えてあげない方がずっと困らせられるんですもの。ああ、その顔、かわいいわ、ほんと。
If you want to know more about me, you're gonna have to go through my route. If you want to seek the answers you're looking for, you're gonna have to go through my route. Fuck you. Gradually, the surroundings went dark.
だから、たくさん困ってね。
Maya called me something at the end, but I was unable to make it out as the dream came to an end. He's gonna have a miserable time at school, isn't he? And then I woke up as an ordinary, everyday life arrived once more. No matter what strange things happened in my dreams, nothing would change reality. I understood that all too well.
兄さん、寝癖跳ねてるわよ。
Let me be. Fix it for me. Saku was at my side again today as I walked to school. When I woke up today, Saku was already there, sitting next to my bed, and looking down at me as I suffered. In other words, she didn't wake me up. I enjoyed watching my troubled face. She didn't have to be that similar. Until now, she only ever invaded my apartment about once a week, but lately it was every day. Yeah, this everyday invading has correlated with Maya appearing in your dreams. Maybe Saki was now anxious after having a dream like that. not that what she had was similar to what I have to deal with. Why did you come again today? Dreams are dreams. Reality was reality. No matter how hard this might have been, there's no way it was okay to barge into the room of a man living alone.
どうしても何も、あんな夢を兄さんが見てるって分かったのに、放っておけるわけがないじゃない。今朝だってうなされてたくせに。
I had been having a nightmare. Plus, Saki put my glasses on again this morning and relieved at the feel of them, I was able to move again. Remembering that, I fixed the angle of my just-for-show glasses. The feeling of having Saki put on my glasses for me, that reminded me that this was reality. Okay. I brought up the fucking Inception spinning top before with in how you differentiate between reality and dream. But for Toru's case, it's the glasses. Okay, now I understand. Now I get it. I don't know. I mean, to be fair, I was confused about why he wore glasses if they were just for show, right? But if this is the reason, they're pretty fucking important. If you can't leave me alone, then wake me up when I'm having a nightmare.
だって、可愛いんですもの。もうちょっと見ていたいってずっと思っちゃうんだもの。
And because she kept thinking just a little longer, of course it never ended. Saki looked a little apologetic, and I let out a sigh. Good grief. Maya and Saki both seem to be having so much fun, so why aren't I having fun? It's totally unfair. Well, you aren't having fun because you aren't letting Maya hit, and you aren't letting Saki hit. So, you know, they're gonna keep teasing you until you pick one of their routes. And unfortunately, you can't pick both, because that's not how this game works. But you can always go for a third girl, or a fourth, or the fifth girl. Never mind. But even though I'm supposed to be able to choose my dreams to a certain extent, why do I always have nightmares?
そうは言うけど、兄さん。夢なんて勝手に見るものなんだから、選べる方がおかしいのよ。
Yeah, but I was starting to suspect that maybe what I was having wasn't actually a lucid dream. But since Saki didn't seem to remember the dream clearly, it clearly meant that I was still lucid dreaming. But until now, I had been able to overwrite the contents of those dreams. I knew that there was no good or bad in dreams, that they were just a projection of one's desires. But instead of receiving my dreams passively, I had been able to willfully change them. And for me, any dream where Maya appeared was a nightmare, or was supposed to be. And yet lately, whenever I dreamed, I was in that room. And Maya was there, grinning at me, asking me questions I didn't want to answer, and giving me a look like she understood everything. In the end, was that something I desired? Yes. Hey, Saki, do I have the sort of personality that seems like I enjoy being tormented?
まさか兄さん、自覚なかったの?
Saki looked completely exasperated, as though she were asking, "What are you saying?" The reaction made my chest ache.
なんで急にそんなことを気にしだしたの?
I was a little hesitant to answer that, but Saki was already involved. Haltingly, I spoke. I told you that Maya appears in my dreams, and every time I end up having a nightmare. Even though I'm not happy and don't find it fun when Maya appears, I wondered if maybe somewhere deep down I'm enjoying it. Saki looked away from me gloomily, as if unsure how to answer.
それは、だって。
And after I finally managed to stop seeing her in my dreams, after causing so much trouble for the people around me, even though it was a good thing that Maya wasn't appearing, Why did I start dreaming about her again? I tried to sound tough, but only managed an empty laugh that almost sounded masochistic. I mean, I get it. Even though I can't be entirely happy about it, somewhere in my heart I'm not against seeing Maya. Her tone and attitude haven't changed at all, but when I think of that, maybe she would have grown up to be that way. When I wonder, what if she had lived, I think I feel a little happy. I thought it was pathetic. I was having nightmares every night and every morning, and I woke up feeling barely rested. On top of that, even Saki was having the same dream now, and I didn't know why. And it was far from fun for Saki. In her dreams, her heart had been laid bare for me and Alice to see. And yet I was happy to be able to see Maya again. How selfish and inconsiderate could I be? Even though I was causing so much trouble for Saki.
バカね、兄さん。相変わらずのバカよ。
It was a response to my empty smile. Saki took my hand and squeezed. She hardly ever did things like this, even when we were alone, let alone in front of people. But I squeezed back, grateful for her touch.
いくら困らせられても、私たちがマーヤちゃんにまた会えて嬉しくないわけがないじゃない。
Saki and I interlaced our fingers, rather than being a romantic gesture. It was more like we were worried about letting go. But you...
大丈夫よ。私はずっと兄さんの妹だから。妹でいるから。
Saki.
だけど、マヤちゃんはもう私たちの前には現れない。帰ってこれなかったの。それは変わらないのよ、兄さん。
I know. Ma wasn't coming back. I understood what that meant for a long time, both logically and emotionally. I was sure Saki didn't want to have to say that after all this time either. But now that we'd seen her again, I had to reaffirm it. There was no good opportunity to let go, so I ended up coming all the way to school holding hands with Saki. It'll probably be fine. That optimistic wish naturally didn't come true.
それで一体何があったんだ？なあ、おい。
Tetsuya started talking to me even though it was the middle of class. He was probably trying to talk in a hushed voice, but it wasn't very quiet. What do you mean? I didn't have the energy to deal with him. Plus, like I said, it was the middle of the class.
何って決まってるだろ？今朝、サキちゃんとイチャイチャしながら学校に来たんだろ？この。
Okay, hang on a minute. Just because they were holding hands doesn't mean they were being lovey-dovey. All right? It was the only holding hands with Saki was the only thing grounding Toru to this world. How do I say? Never mind. Tetsuya made as if to poke me with his elbow. His misunderstanding was making my head hurt more. Where had he heard this? How did he know? Hey.
おっと、兄弟だからなんてのは通じないぜ。むしろ兄弟ならあの手のつなぎ方は行き過ぎなんじゃねえの？
He had made it sound like he heard it from somebody, but now he was getting pretty specific. Had he been watching?
もしかしてついに一線を越えた？それで朝からイチャイチャ投稿ですか、この野郎！
As much as Toru secretly would secretly love to cross that line, there are a few people close to Saki who would not allow that. At least not for now. But they will eventually. I'm telling you, it's not like that.
おいそこ、うるさい。
あ、はい、すいません。ほら、トールもってあれ？おい、トール？
Oh, I was about to apologize when my vision started to get murky. Not good. Even though I was holding myself up with my hands, I couldn't summon up any energy. Huh?
おい、トール顔真っ青になってんぞおい、トールトール
Tetsuya's rare, panicked voice sounded like it was coming from a long ways in the distance. And then my vision went black. Okay, I don't think it was going to fade that slowly, but... Shit! Back here so soon? I heard the sound of doors closing behind me. Before I knew it, I was standing in that room. There was the usual color scheme, as well as the smell of black tea, sweet pastries, and a hint of potpourri or something. But potpourri? I always forget if the T is silent or not. I think it's silent. Since the smell of roasted honey and forest weren't present, I felt pretty calm, even though I was in a dream. When Maya was around, for some reason, the smell of those nightmare flowers got really strong and made me dizzy. Or maybe Maya was the source of that smell. Well, that aside. I was gonna say, if it isn't smelling the flowers, then it's probably fucking Alice. What are you doing here at this time of day? As soon as I realized I was in that room, I met Alice's gaze as she stuffed a piece of pie into her mouth. She froze in place and looked at me. She was like a kid who had been caught snitching food. Snitching? Wouldn't snatching be a better word? Okay. Why don't you go ahead and swallow that? Oh, why don't you go ahead and swallow that? She nodded and began to chew the pie in her mouth. I put myself down on the spot on the sofa, so you get a clear view of her panties. I leaned against the back and looked up at the ceiling. A deep sigh spilled from her mouth.
わあ、なんかお疲れだね。とりあえず紅茶飲む？
Sure, but I can't help being tired. Between recordings, right, I kind of found out that the opacity of the... Okay, how do I say this? Sometimes, right, when you change the opacity of the text box, where would it be, right? It isn't always fully opaque, right? Like if I change it here, that you can't see behind it. There are some visual novels where the text box is still very much visible. The stuff in the background is still very much visible through the text box, right? It makes it pretty fucking hard for me to censor shit. The thing with Alice and this CG is that since I've already gone through this CG before, and you know, because the text box was see-through, it would have been a lot harder for me to censor the panties. I just hope that I can get away with keeping these panties uncensored. But with other Alice CGs, right, I will be changing the opacity of the text box so that I can more easily censor the panties, right? Sure, but I can't help being tired. I sat up and massaged my brows. No matter how tired I was, I didn't want to keep acting so pathetic in front of someone whose origins I didn't know. So I somehow roused myself and sat up somewhat straight.
お疲れ。って、なんかあったの？
Is there something strange about me being tired after being dragged into dreams like this every night? Look, the silver lining here, Toru, is that at least you're not being tormented by Maya. You're being rewarded by Alice. Specifically her panties, but you're being rewarded by Alice. Well, Maybe I was the only one coming to this room, so I wasn't exactly being dragged, but still.
まあそうだよね。トールは私にはない事情とか抱えてそうだし。
I accepted the tea she offered me, and remembering those circumstances she didn't have, let out another sigh.
うわ、暗っ。ほら、もっと元気出さないと。
It's not that easy. And why are you so cheerful anyway? Aren't you worried? Was I the only one that had become involved like this?
ん？不安って？
Since we're here, we might see a dream like we did with Saki's recently.
隠してることを夢に見たり、トラウマめいた相手に会ったり、それをトールたちに見られたり。
Alice made a sour face as she held her cup in both hands. Don't you think that might happen?
まあ、サキちゃんの夢を覗き見してしまった以上、同じことをされても仕方ないとは思うんですが。
I see. It can't be helped, huh? Did can't be helped really apply to dreams? Maybe normally, but when you could alter it as you pleased, the way I could, it didn't seem like that. Come to think of it, Saka remembered having that dream, albeit vaguely.
ということはつまり、ここに来てるのが全員トールの妄想の産物じゃないってことが証明されたわけね。
Okay, Toru may be crazy, but he isn't that crazy, right? He has friends. I think. At least Saki wasn't. That just meant Saki and I Saki and I had the same dream.
私だってちゃんと本人ですよ。トールの望んだ妄想の美少女なんかじゃありません。
And neither is Maya. There is at least a foundation of reality when he was created from his fantasies. Unfortunately, that hasn't been proven yet. I hope we get to see how real she actually is in her round. Alice looked dissatisfied, but just because Saki and I had shared a dream didn't necessarily mean that Alice existed somewhere else. Hey, do you really have, like, a body?
そう。
What?
いや、なんと言いますか。確かに起きている間の記憶がないというか、気づけばいつもこの辺にいると言いますか。
What do you mean you have no memories of when you're awake?
何その目。だからって、トールの妄想が生み出した美少女じゃないんだから。
Don't call yourself a beautiful girl.
そっち？論点そっちじゃないと思うんだけど。だいたい、私がトールの一部だったら、こうして話してるのとかも一人芝居だよ。
She suddenly looked at me with a pitiful looking gaze.
それって、結構寂しくない？
Well, yeah, well, a one-man show is pretty much what a dream is. And unfortunately, I was used to that.
そうだけど、だったらそうじゃなくて、私もサキちゃんみたいに外から来た人って思っておく方がいいんじゃないかなって。ね。
I do get what you're trying to say. And despite what I was saying, I never once thought of or treated Alice as if she were just a construct of my dreams. The main reason I thought this way was because it was easier, just as Alice had said. But I wasn't completely certain that Alice wasn't a delusion, unlike Saki, but I had no intention of telling her that. But Alice, it looks like you were elegantly eating your pie and such before I came here, so...
大変美味しゅうございました。
If you have a body, then what are you doing sleeping at this hour? Alice, who had been reaching for some pumpkin pie, suddenly stopped, much like a toy whose batteries just ran out.
なんででしょうね。ってトールは？さ っちだって来てるじゃない。
Like I was saying, I collapsed either from lack of sleep or more likely from fatigue.
じゃあ、私もそれで。いや、倒れてはないかもしれないけど、疲れてついつい居眠りしちゃったんじゃないかな。多分。
You guess? Probably didn't really tell me anything.
まあまあ、トールみたいにひどいことになってはいないっぽいから大丈夫だって。ほら、ね、はい。
As if trying to win me over, Alice placed a slice of pie on a plate and offered it to me. But I thought you didn't have any memories of when you're awake. I accepted the pie. The color was a yellowish orange, and it had roasted pumpkin seeds on top. It looked pretty good.
私のことはいいから。それより、トールこそ倒れたって大変なんじゃないの？
Well, it's not like it's the first time, so I think it'll be fine. Although I feel bad for the people around me. I answered as I took a bite of my pie, but Alice seemed to think I had answered half-heartedly and grew sullen. I'm used to it. Back when I first started having lucid dreams, I collapsed all the time. But Alice was unconvinced. She stood up from her chair and walked over to me, putting her face near mine. Before I could ask what she was doing, she touched her forehead to mine. Alice's face was right in front of mine. It was rare for someone besides Saki and Maya to be this close. I didn't know what to do, so I didn't move. I could tell my face was turning red.
やっぱちょっと熱あるかも？誤差かな？私体温低いしな。
Alice... Despite my confusion, Alice removed her forehead from mine. Why did the girls around me defenselessly feel my temperature like that? What a weird question.
慣れてるからって、いつも同じだとは限らないでしょ？もしかしたら疲れてるとこに風邪とかひいたかもしれないんだし。
I'm telling you, it was nothing like that. If I had gotten a cold, Saki wouldn't have let me leave my apartment unless it was an emergency.
まあ、今日は本当に疲れてるだけみたいだし、寝れば良くなるかな。
But even if I did have a cold in reality, that didn't necessarily mean I'd have one here. And I hadn't noticed that her body temperature was low at all. There was no guarantee that I wasn't unconsciously creating that sort of character, but maybe Alice really was just visiting here like Saki had.
まあ、ゆっくりしていきなさい。ここには美味しい紅茶もお茶菓子も、私という話し相手までいるんだから。
Are you just trying to get me involved because you're bored?
そんなことないよ。
Bullseye. Not that I knew how to wake up from here anyway. Fine then. But if I eat all this now, I get the feeling I won't be able to eat lunch again.
何言ってるの？起きてる時は多分別腹。
Sure, but would his appetite not carry over? Right? If he feels full in the dream, would he not feel full in real life, even if his stomach is empty? Right? Think about that. You don't even remember when you're awake. Alice was at a loss for words. Don't use that against her, man. Obviously, you have a separate stomach when you're awake, but if you stuff yourself in a dream, it affects your appetite in reality. But despite knowing that, I practically inhaled the pumpkin pie because it was so delicious. The slices were quite big too.
だけど、暇とか言ってると、あの子がそれならとか言ってフラッと来そうだね。
Don't jinx us. It really felt like she might show up.
いや、ほら、私とかさきちゃんは困らされてるけど、トール、あの子と話してるとき楽しそうじゃない？
As if. I mean, technically, he is having... Okay, well, I wouldn't call it fun, especially since he wakes up fatigued every night, every day, but, you know, that's a consequence of him having these dreams, it's not just because of Maya. I always thought I was usually frowning, but did I really look like I was having fun to Alice? Maybe my mouth had been smiling, like Maya had said. If so, I got the feeling I was beyond help. Even though we're talking about her, she hasn't appeared. To hide my self-loathing, I turned my gaze to the doors.
そうだね。ふわーっと湧いてきて、トールの後ろとか膝の上に乗ってたりするのに。
But also, Alice, why do you know how Toru looks when he's talking to Maya? Are you fucking spying on them? Even as she said this, it wouldn't have been strange for Maya to be standing behind Alice or me. That was how she seemed to be like, how she seemed to like to appear.
来ないね。
You don't need to call her. Alice nodded.
よし。だったらやっぱり、私がトールの話し相手になってあげるね。さ、何でも来い。
Thanks, but wouldn't it be better to wake up if I could?
そうは言うけど、ここと外って時間の流れ方違うだろうし、急いで起きても学校終わってるかもよ。
Don't say that. That had actually happened to me before. Sometimes I only dreamt it for a short while, but when I woke up, hours had passed. That's usually how dreams work, yes. On the other hand, there were times when a huge amount of time passed in my dream, but then when I woke up, it had only been a little nap. Similar to the Junji Ito story. I'd rather school not be over when when I wake up. I mean, yeah, that is funny. It's I'm sure it's happened to a bunch of people, right? It's happened to me too, where you dream for what feels like fucking ages, but like only a few hours pass. But then you have like a 3-second dream and it's a full 8 hours of sleep, right? What is the cutoff point in the duration of the dream where it is no longer a full night's sleep of a dream, right? When does the time dilation shift from short dream equal long sleep to long dream equal short sleep? Caveman speak. After I wondered for a bit, I realized that Alice was looking at me with a very interested expression on her face. What's with that face?
トールの行ってる学校ってどんなとこかなって思ったの。
At those words, a thought suddenly struck me. Are you even familiar with school?
知ってる
Also, why are you asking? You saw what his school was like in Saki's dream. Why was that in question form? You look about the same age as me, so don't you go to school?
だから、起きてる時のこととかわかんないんだってば。だから知ってるけど、言ったこととか覚えてないんだって。
Maybe you can find it in your dreams eventually. I asked her if she was familiar with school specifically because I knew she didn't remember when she was awake. I gave a small sigh.
なんで、いろいろその辺の話を聞かせてほしいと思ったんだけど。
Well, that's fine, I guess. School, huh? My school is a little strange, so I don't want you to go thinking it's normal.
変わってるって何が？今時番長がいて全国制覇を狙ってるとか、変形してロボットが出てくるとか。
Where did she get this strange knowledge from? Just because she doesn't remember what she watched, just because she doesn't remember the anime she watched when she's awake doesn't mean she doesn't have the knowledge of watching that anime in her head. Yep. Nothing that removed from reality. It just has an escalator system. Escalator, Alice parroted. Before the main building that I'm attending now, there's an annex school building that you go to. Then you pretty much automatically advance to the main building.
つまり、受験しなくていいの？
There's a token exam, but you need to take an entry exam in order to enter the annex building in the first place. You could say that exams just came 3 years early. Though it wasn't like Suikyo Academy was that difficult of a school to enter. The facilities were good because it was 2 buildings, and the school traditions were pretty liberal. On the other hand, the punishments were severe if you got carried away, and the tuition wasn't cheap either. I think the school received money as part of a combined school test project, so the tuition is actually pretty affordable considering the quality of the facilities.
その本校って付属から上がってくるしか入れないの？
No, there's always an external exam, because not everyone who attends the annex building goes up to the main building. They accept outside applications. Club Prez had moved here in April, and then part of the group... Club Prez had moved here in April and been part of the group that took the external exam. Surely A group would be better there, right? It's not like Club Prez was. It's not like Yayoi was in the only group that took the external exam, right? At the same time, Asahi took the normal entrance exam.
6年も同じ顔ぶれで飽きないのかな？
I heard that's part of what they're testing, but also, Alice. That's how normal school works. I mean, okay, I understand that there are some school systems in other countries where there are 3 different schools that people go to, but at least here, we have prep, which is like grade 0 and then grade 1 to 6, and then for high school it's 7 to 12, right? So you're talking about you're talking about people getting tired of seeing the same face for 6 years. A lot of faces change in 6 years, especially when you're that young. So, you know.
トールは飽きないの？
Not really. I've never had many friends anyway. Alice turned away from me, looking a little upset.
なんかごめんね。
It bothers me more if you apologize so seriously like that. Why did Alice seem to be in more pain than me, even though I was the one without many friends?
けど、なんで友達いないの？私とはもう友達になってるくらいなのに。
Because I'm always gloomy and frowning when I'm awake. Apparently that makes me difficult to approach, and also because you have that history with Maya, so I'm sure people who knew you back then also find you difficult to approach. Plus, even though they didn't know about my lucid dreaming, people were pretty aware that I had some sort of medical condition. Under these circumstances, you would need some magic in order to have lots of friends.
それだけが理由じゃなくて、普段から学校でサキちゃんとイチャイチャしてるからじゃなくて？
I don't have a hard time believing that may be one of the reasons. An unsociable guy being taken care of by his little sister, with whom he may or may not be in love with. It just seemed like a hopeless case. At least I wouldn't have to approach someone like that, even though it was me.
だけど、少ないってことは友達いないわけじゃないんでしょ？それってどんな変わり者？
Don't call my friends weirdos, although they are. Well, yeah, you have Saki, Yayoi. I was trying to remember the guy's name, even though we just saw him like 10 minutes ago. That guy, his girlfriend, right? The beer company, and then Maya. So, you know, he has a great bunch of friends. Even if one of them is dead. Especially Tetsuya and Club Prez. That's his name. And poor Asahi. She was normal except for the fact that she was in a lovey-dovey relationship with Tetsuya. You want to hear about them?
うん。私、友達ってトールしか記憶にないし。
Sorry about that.
本気で謝るな。起きればきっと友達たくさんいるんだからね。
Sure. Whatever helps you wake up in the morning. She's already asleep, so I don't think sleep at night works here. Sleep at night works in this context. And that seemed likely, considering her personality and looks. Is it really fun hearing about other people's friends? But Alice's gaze was urging me to talk, so I opened my mouth. There's this guy called Tetsuya. He's been my friend since we were in the annex building. Friend law. Friend slop law. I could hear the ticking of the clock, although I didn't know where it was. Even as I talked about Club President Tetsuya and other things having to do with school, Maya didn't appear.
マヤちゃん、来ないんだね。
Is it because Alice is here? I mean, here's the thing, right? It's not like Maya and Alice have not appeared in this place at the same time, but the first time Maya appeared, the only reason Toru didn't get sucked into his dream, I guess, was because of Alice. Right? And then the second time he came here, only Alice showed up, and then Maya came soon after with fucking Saki. I'm kind of blanking a bit, but I think that's how it worked. And you know, every time Maya is here, when Toru is dreaming at night, Alice is never here, even though she fucking spies on him talking to Maya. Apparently, it's better if she doesn't, and it's not something for you to worry about. Despite having been thinking the same thing, Alice didn't need to say it out loud.
だけどね、マヤちゃんってトールとサキちゃんのこと大好きっていうのは伝わってくるのよ。まああの子の愛情表現はさすがに私もどうかなと思うんだけど。
Maybe not with how she shows it now, but her attitude was always like that.
そうなんだ。それで。
Well, time to see if I can wake up. I interrupted Alice, who looked like she had more to say, and stood up. I didn't want to talk about Maya anymore. No matter how many sweets we ate from the table, it would suddenly be full again. It neither increased nor decreased. And even though I got full immediately, Alice was still eating.
もうちょっとおしゃべりしようよ。暇なんだってば。
Maybe you'll catch him again when he collapses in the classroom again, and dreams about this place again. I collapsed in my classroom, you know. I'm sure I'm worrying everyone, so I want to hurry and wake up.
そうだね。だっていうのに、のんきにここでお菓子食べながら女の子とおしゃべりしてましたなんてのはまずいか。
You know, as much as I love talking to you instead of Maya, I'm sure there are people who would prefer to talk to Maya. Case in point, the person who gifted me the game. Better than me having a nightmare and worrying them even more, though. Alice nodded as she licked the cream from her fingers, and then she stood up and tried the doorknobs. Those doors, which were normally locked, which were always locked when we tried to wake up.
あれ？開いた。
Apparently, they weren't locked, because the knobs turned and opened without issue. Maybe I'll be able to wake up if I go through here.
次の夢の始まりだったりして。
Okay, well, I was going to say that, but fuck you. Don't say that. What if that really happens?
そうしたら最後までちゃんと付き合ってあげるから。ってなんで嫌そうな顔するの？私と一緒にいるのがそんなに嫌か。
I'm just wary about the idea of this dream not ending. If I'm going to see you anyway, I'd rather it wasn't in a troublesome dream like this.
それどういう意味？
I'm saying it would be nice to just hang out somewhere normally. Being frightened of Maya and worrying about having a strange dream were equally tiring. It would obviously be more fun not having to worry about something like that.
うん。そうだね。
Despite her words, Alice's voice sounded somewhat lonely.
まあまあ、いいからいいから。それじゃ、ドーンと言ってみよう！
What? Wait a second. Before I had a chance to even question the expression I saw on Alice's face, she pushed me through the door. She isn't gonna follow me in? I took a step into the darkness. And then there was nothing under my feet. I surrendered myself to the sensation of falling or rising, or whatever it was, and then I get fucking 10 frames a second transition. Well, I guess it worked. When I woke up, I found myself in a familiar place. The beds were divided by curtains, and there was the scent of chemicals. Chemicals I didn't smell very often. I was in a bed in the school infirmary. Glasses. And when I touched my face, my glasses weren't there. I hardly reached to the side, but hit my hand against the metal guard to the side of the bed.
起きた。はい、メガネ。
On the side of the bed. The glasses were placed in my outstretched hand. Upon placing these just-for-show glasses on my face, I was finally able to relax and open my eyes. I blinked several times and noticed that there were fingerprints on my glasses. Then I realized who was there. Did the yellow text not give it away? For some reason, Club Prez was smiling and waving at me. At first, I thought I was seeing things. I collapsed during class, so I expected Saki to have showed up worried.
おはよう。目、覚めたみたいね。
How much time has passed? It was Club Prez, without a doubt. Good morning. Club Prez nodded and poked my cheek. What are you doing?
暇つぶし。というか、なんか幸せそうな顔して寝ちゃっててつまんなかったわ。いい夢でも見てたの？
Did you want him to have a bad one? Yes. Well, for the first time in a while, it wasn't too bad. All I did was chat with Alice over tea, and Maya wasn't anywhere to be seen. Far from being a bad dream, there wasn't even any self-loathing involved, so you could easily call it a happy dream.
最近のトールは毎日うなされてるってさきちゃんは言ってたのに。
Well, this wasn't a nightmare. I didn't know if she understood or not. More importantly, Club Prez, stop poking my cheek. What if somebody sees you?
大丈夫よ。他に誰もいないし。先生も今出てっちゃって留守番任されてるのよ。
Or just because you're part of the science club? That's still not a reason to poke my cheek. When I brushed her hand aside, Club Prez quickly stopped. So you found someone who you knew and decided to kill time by gazing at their sleeping face?
そうそう。さきちゃんが結構飽きないって言ってたじゃない？
Why do you know this? I remembered her saying something to that effect, but that had nothing to do with poking my cheek.
それにしても、トールってば寝顔は結構可愛いのね。
Club Prez put her hand on the bed and leaned towards me as I laid there. What are you doing?
保健室に男と女が二人きり。しかもベッドまであるし、何か間違いが起きたらどうするつもりかしら。
I'm sure that if rumors were to spread of Toru and Yayoi being in the same bed, they would be less damaging to his reputation than if rumors spread of him and Saki being in the same bed. I had to be very deliberate with and slow with how I said those words so I could say the entire sentence without how would I say? I needed to make sure that what I was saying would make sense. Alright. Her expression and words made my heart race, but I sighed to hide some of my feelings.
何その態度。なんかバカにされてるような気がしてくるんだけど。
Don't worry, I'm sure you're going to be the next girl that gets a dream that Toru will be able to look at, and Alice, and potentially Saki, and Maya, because she's the one who's going to cause you to have that dream. I was, judging from your personality, you would never risk being found out.
あら、もしかしたら見られちゃうかもしれない緊張感がたまらないタイプかもよ、私。
Then get your thrills with someone other than me, please. I hid the fact that my heart was pounding and bluntly turned her down. She gave me a disappointed, sullen expression. To put some distance between us, I sat up and leaned against the metal headboard of the bed. So, why are you here? Why are you in the infirmary, Club Prez? You don't look like there's anything wrong with you. Being there was one thing, but since she didn't have a book or anything, I figured she'd just got bored.
あら、女の子が風邪でもないのに保健室にいる理由なんてそんなにあるわけないじゃない。
Or just get bored. You're cutting class, aren't you?
女の子の日よ。
Do you use that excuse every month? When she said that so matter-of-factly, I failed to do a parry check and froze instead. Seeing this, Club Press giggled. She got me good.
やあね、冗談よ冗談。トールの言う通り、サボりでいいのよ。
Then don't make any weird jokes.
ごめんね。だけど、仕返ししたくなっちゃったんだもの。仕方ないじゃない。
I'm sure the best way to parry those jokes is to double down. Alright? It's her time of the month. Prove it. She's... Okay, she hasn't made any jokes similar to that, so I guess I can't really use another example. Even so, she didn't have to do it like that. And no matter how non-athletic you are, I don't think it's right of you to skip PE so much.
なるほど、病弱キャラ。ハーフの優等生が病弱って、ツボだと思わないかしら。
If it was real, maybe, but if you're LARPing, no. If I didn't know any better, I probably would have thought so. Actually, I really did wish I wasn't so familiar with what it was like to be sickly, and then I would be able to have a bittersweet time in club hanging around my beautiful blonde club president.
あら、なんでそんな悲しそうな顔してるの？
Because of you.
私って悪い女ね。
Yeah, and that's why you're high in the ranking. I figured that out a long time ago. Is what I would have liked to say. I say in the ranking, but I haven't made the official ranking yet. Even if you are an honor student, if you skip PE, you won't get good grades. What will you do if you fail PE?
落としたらどうするじゃなくて、落とすならその分をどうすればいいかで考えればいいのよ。ないものは望んじゃいけないのよ。
This is why I sometimes thought Club Prez was scary. If she didn't have something, she didn't needlessly ask for it or depend on other people for it. She also didn't hesitate to sacrifice things if necessary. Doing things half-assed is easy, isn't it? This was something of a personal slogan of hers. That's not to say she actually did anything half-assed. Rather than aiming for perfection from the start, she always assessed what was possible and what wasn't, and dealt with things on a case-by-case basis. So she's kind of the opposite of a perfectionist. This was what she meant by half-assed. Why she was living like this, how she was living like this, it was all beyond me. I had a hunch that something must have happened for her to become like this. I mean, you're not wrong. That's usually what happens. There had to be a reason for her proactive ambition. Well, I guess it was nothing to do with me. It has nothing to do with me.
そうそう。大丈夫よ。トールたちに迷惑かけるようなことはしないから。
That wasn't what I meant, but I didn't feel any need to correct her. After all, I had my hands full with just dealing with my lucid dreams and nightmares. I didn't have any intention of sticking my nose in out of sheer curiosity and getting burned.
それにいつも言ってるけど、トールってばそんないろいろ気にしてるとハゲるわよ。
Yeah, it's not your problem, Toru, until it directly involves you, which it will eventually when she has a dream that you have to enter or whatever. I'm still unsure of the formula in this game for this game. I'll shave my head then.
うわー、それもったいないわ。きっと似合わないし、何よりさきちゃんが泣くわよ。
I wasn't so sure about that. There were quite a few bald guys in her family's company. She was probably used to them. Yeah, but that doesn't mean she likes them. What do you mean?
それでトールこそなんでこんなところで寝てたの？仮病？
Did she not know why he's here? I collapsed in my classroom. If I were faking, then I'd be a pretty shameful person, wouldn't I? Catching strays. You're catching strays.
痛いわね。保健の先生は疲労だろうから寝かしておけばいいって言ってたけど。何？つまり寝不足とか？
No, I got plenty of sleep. I just didn't get any rest because of my dreams. It was more of a mental fatigue than a physical fatigue.
ああ、ルシッドドリームのせいで頭は起きっぱなしになってたのね。
Pretty much. It wasn't like this was something out of the ordinary for me. But now that I was awake, I couldn't just lie there forever, so I moved to get out of bed, but Club Prez pushed me back down. It was a light push, but I still ended up lying on the bed. Club Prez.
どうせもうすぐお昼休みよ。それまでゆっくりしてなさい。
She admonished me with an unbelievably gentle smile. It was such a gentle smile that it made me hesitate to ask if there was some reason behind it. My words were caught in my throat.
悪い夢のせいで寝てないんでしょ？眠れなくても私がここにいてあげるからゆっくり休みなさい。
Yeah, you need to find out another way to rest your mind without entering the dreams. Thanks. Other than some mild embarrassment, I had no reason to refuse. The bed was cozier than I thought, and the room was warm and comfortable too. On top of that, the club press smelled nice and it made me want to rest.
あら、素直じゃない。
Don't ruin the moment. Sometimes I am. I mean, after all, I'm in such a warm room with a beautiful senpai saying she's going to stay by my side. The club press blinked, slightly taken aback at my words. But in the next moment, she regained her cool.
その美人の先輩に何かしてほしいことはあるかしら？お休みのキスとか。
No thanks. Maybe in your route, but that's not going to happen for a long time. I imagined that, and my face turned red again. I couldn't deny that I wondered for a moment if she would really do it. Then I remembered the recent dream I'd had with Saki asking me to kiss her. I heaved a sigh and settled in the bed.
まあいいわ。ゆっくり休みなさい。
For some reason, Club Prez's voice was incredibly kind, and she didn't tease me anymore.